is eating well. So let's go ahead and get right into that. I have 3 monitors, and on my side, everything on your side is probably fine. On my screen, things are going a little crazy. So just a moment here. There we go. All right. So one of the things that I really want to bring home is the fact that you don't have to eat perfectly. Like, no one's diet's perfect, not even mine as a dietitian. So what we really want to focus on here, as far as resolutions and things you can do to eat well in the new year, is just doing things that you're already doing, but slightly healthier. So one of the things you can do is just try cooking more at home. When you create your meals at home, you are able to really control exactly what goes into them. So you can still have a lot of the same foods you've always had, but you can just swap out healthier ingredients here and there. So for example, you could choose whole grains instead of refined pastas or white breads. You can choose leaner cuts of meat than you normally do, or if you usually have ground beef, you could go for ground turkey or something of that nature. And you can even do things like making your own salad dressings with oil, vinegar, herbs, things of that nature. Not only does this allow you to make healthier versions of your favorite foods, but also this will usually end up costing you less money, which is something that I think that we would all like to save some money on our food here and there. It really would help in this regard. Don't be too intimidated. And one of the things that you can do is you can make a menu for yourself at the beginning of the week. That way you're going to be more able to have a plan and not suddenly be like, oh no, I just got home, I need dinner, what am I going to do? I'll just order out. If you make a plan ahead of time and pick what you're going to do and even do a shopping list for it, you're going to be much more able to stick to your goals moving forward. And I personally like to prep and actually make all of my meals a week in advance, and then I freeze some of them, put some of them in the refrigerator. Very convenient, though that might be level 2. Right now, we just want to improve little steps. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. And let's see here. So one of the other my apologies, there we go. One of the other things that we really want to do is drive home the importance of eating more fruits and vegetables. There's a lot of different ways that you can work fruits and vegetables in your diet, and there's a lot of reasons to do it. What we really like to do, especially at the NRI, is encourage eating a rainbow. So we really want to get as many colors of fruits and vegetables into our diet. Even if you're someone who, I only like bananas, that's fine. Bananas are great, but you want to get more colors. You want to get some reds from strawberries, or some greens from lettuce here and there. And the reason is all of those different colors from those different foods actually reflect the nutrients that are inside of them. There are things like vitamins and phytochemicals that are good for your body, and they all give a different color to the plant foods. So fruits with blue, purple, and violet colors have something called an anthocyanin in them. It's a nutrient that's really good for your brain and helps with aging. And in fact, over here at the NRI, Dr. Carol Cheatham has been researching the benefits of blueberries, which contain lots of anthocyanins, on helping to improve memory. So that's when you really want to work in some blues and purples for that. And then on the other end of the color spectrum, we've got oranges and yellows. Fruits and vegetables with that color have beta carotene, which is a precursor for vitamin A and supports eye and heart health. And then orange and yellow fruits also will have a lot of vitamin C, which particularly when we're trying to avoid certain diseases out in the community, is good to know that it provides immune support. And I think that it's really common when people hear to eat more fruits and vegetables, they think they need to be eating raw fruits and vegetables and salads all the time, but that's not actually true. It's great if you do, but a lot of times it's not super convenient for people who are busy. And so I just don't want you guys to be afraid of doing canned or frozen vegetables and fruits. They are still great for you, especially frozen stuff. It tends to be frozen at the peak of freshness, is what the marketing people like to call it. But at the end of the day, it means that they're not going to lose a lot of nutrients and like storage on the shelf. So don't be afraid of frozen fruit. Just because it's not a salad the way we typically think of it doesn't mean that it's not healthy for you. And we can go ahead and go on to the next slide. I'm going to take a little drink. My apologies. Perfect slide to be taking a drink on, because hydration is incredibly important. Not only is water obviously incredibly important to our body, it's a vital component in basically all of the processes that go on in our bodies all the time. So without water, you're going to be sluggish in a lot of different biological ways. We need water for our body to work properly. And even if you're only mildly dehydrated, even if you drink some water, but just not enough, you can really start feeling less energetic and you can start feeling really tired. Usually you're looking for around 3 liters a day. Women can go for a little bit less, 2.7 liters or so, while men might go for a little bit higher, 3.7 liters. In dietetics, we like to say 1 milliliter per kcal consumed, but don't you worry too much about that. Just try and hit for around 3 liters a day and you'll be just fine. And now I think that one of the most interesting things about this is it doesn't just have to be what you drink. A lot of foods that we all really like contain water. So you think about watermelon, named for a reason. It's got tons of water in it. A lot of fruits and vegetables have a high water content. And despite the fact that it's not quite wintry weather out, it's beautiful out today, but soups and other things like that I know that we in the winter time really like to get into our diet a lot also have a lot of water. So don't just think about what you're drinking, but also what you're eating if it has a lot of water content, and it also contributes to your hydration status. If you're looking for something to drink though, and you're like, oh, but I really should be drinking more water, I think we all should. You can also look for ways to spice up your water drinking by adding things like sliced fruit or just having that sitting in your fridge so you can have a little bit of a flavor to your water. If you're someone who thinks water tastes a little bit boring, I agree, but that's what all that fruit's great for. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. And one of the things I think we're all guilty of if we're working from home is going for a little bit of a snack when maybe we shouldn't be. But there isn't anything wrong with having a snack, particularly when you're hungry. We just don't want to form bad habits of mindless snacking just because the food's there or just because we're bored. One of the best things we can do is make sure that we've basically scheduled our food. This doesn't mean it is 12:15, it is time to eat lunch or I've messed up. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. But generally speaking, have a plan of, okay, I'm gonna have lunch around this time. I've got a snack planned. We'll have, an apple and some peanut butter at this point in time in the afternoon, things of that nature. And planning out your snacks throughout the day can really keep you from just grabbing whatever's there throughout the day and snacking more than you intend to. Another thing to consider is kind of hearkening back to our previous slide. When you're dehydrated, you often will feel hungry even though you're actually thirsty. Our body isn't the best at necessarily determining the difference between those two sensations. So a lot of times, as long as you're drinking enough water, you won't have nearly as much of a desire to snack as you normally would have. And also, when you do have a snack, you want to make sure that it's a filling snack. You'll notice when I mentioned apples, I also mentioned peanut butter. Peanut butter is one example of food with a lot of protein in it. We want a lot of protein in our snacks because protein is not only good for you, you want a fair amount of protein in your diet, but also it's very filling. It's what we call a high satiety food. It's going to satisfy you. And so by having more protein in each of your snacks, those snacks are going to go a long way towards making you feel more satisfied with that snack and not leaving you being like, oh, maybe just one more piece of that, or maybe just one more snack before dinner. So that's going to help out a lot. One of our favorite protein-filled foods at the NRI is eggs. I really like hard-boiled eggs. I like to prep deviled eggs beforehand myself. I love deviled eggs, one of my favorite foods. And one of the great things about eggs, hearkening back to those nutrients that are so good for us, is they're full of choline, which our own Dr. Zeisel studies choline here at the NRI. It's essential for the brain development of babies, and it also impacts muscle recovery and liver function. So it's really great for you. And that's a really great small but high protein snack that you can fit into your day as well. We can go ahead and go on to the next slide. And like I'd said, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You don't need to suddenly move, you don't have to move mountains and change your diet entirely to have the dietitian's perfect diet. That's not reasonable for anyone, even us people who study nutrition. We all have all sorts of different diets, and that's entirely okay. The best thing we can do, and what I invite you all to do, is to look at what you're doing right now. Look at what you enjoy in your day as far as food, or as far as your food habits, when you eat, what you eat, things of that nature, and think, what is a small change that I can do to make this a little bit better for me? Well, I really like having toast in the morning. Let's make it a whole grain toast. Or I really, really enjoy drinking soda. I enjoy it. I can't help it. But I know that that's not necessarily the best for me. So instead, how about some of that water with sliced fruit in it? It's going to be better for me. It's still going to have that delicious flavor packed drink, and it's going to help me stay hydrated. So there are these ways that you can change what you're currently doing without suddenly feeling like you're losing a lot or changing everything about your life, but are going to make the habits you already have healthier habits for you to have moving forward. And as we add more and more of these healthy changes over time, we're going to see better and better impact on our health. Always just make sure that your goals are what we like to call SMART goals. And that means that they should be specific, they should be measurable, should be attainable, they should be realistic, and they should be timely. Instead of just saying, I'm gonna work on my hydration this year, I'm just gonna drink more water this year. You might say, in January, I'm going to drink 2 liters of water per day by using a water bottle that tracks my intake. So that's a goal that you have. It's specific, you know when you're going to do it, and you know how you're going to do it. So I like my toast in the morning. In January, I'm going to switch to whole wheat toast instead of white toast. Small, but something that I can definitely do, which will have an impact long term. So that way, you're really thinking of it more as lifestyle changes and ways to improve what you're doing now instead of going on a diet, because that's what we want, is developing healthier lifestyles as opposed to going on a diet that might fail. There's no failing at improving your lifestyle. It's constant improvement, and it's what we're all working on. And we want to thank you for working on it with us. And that is what I have to say.
Thank you so, so much, Kendra. I don't have any questions that have come in via the Q&A or the chat at this moment, but I do want to remind everyone that if you have questions, you can leave them there. We will be providing a handout. It'll be available on our website, and we can send it out via email that sums up everything that Kendra just spoke about, so that if you need the reminders, those will be available to you. So thank you again, Kendra. We are going to move on to our second resolution, which is to take care of your body. And for this, we're going to be focusing on mobility, stretching, particularly right now when we're all working from home and probably working in less than ideal circumstances. So I'm going to start my video because I am actually here at the gym with Chris Yandel, who is the fitness director at Charlotte Strength and the head coach at NotaFit, and we are going to run through a mobility demonstration.
Hello, again, thank you all for having me. Like Sarah said, I am the fitness director at Charlotte Strength. And being the beginning of the year, I really like the way y'all are approaching this, is trying to create new habits. And with mobility, I want to give you a new way to think about mobility. Instead of just thinking I need to stretch, just doing any stretch, I want you to think why you stretch specific muscles. And just like Sarah said, we are spending a lot of time sitting at home now, whether that's because of quarantine or driving to work, or if we are actually in the office, we spend a lot of time sitting. So Sarah's sitting perfectly, and you see her certain muscles are shortening right now. So if you look, the way she's sitting, her hips are closed and her knees are bent. So that's going to shorten her hamstrings, it's going to shorten her hip flexors. So an easy way to think about it is just we want to counteract what is happening. So if you're sitting like this for 8 hours a day, we want to counteract exactly what she's been doing. So she's going to show us a couple of stretches.
We will make the screen a little bit bigger for all of you to see this piece as well. So let's jump right into that.
Perfect. So she's going to get into a long lunge here. And as you can see, this is going to counteract her hips the way they were when she was sitting. And then she's actually going to bring her hips back now. She's going to reach out and touch her heels, her ankle, and that's going to stretch her hamstring. And a perfect way you can use this as a warm-up or mobility is you can flow her back and forth. This way you can promote some blood flow to these specific muscles. She's opening up her hips and also opening up her hamstrings at the same time. Now, a good way to do this after a workout is you can actually hold these poses. You want to make sure that your body's nice and warm, the joints are up, moving through a workout, whether it's been a walk, some weightlifting, whatever you've done for that day. It's a good way to recover and to help promote mobility. Another one is when we're sitting all day, our shoulders tend to lean forward. So what that does is when you lean your shoulders forward, it shortens your chest and pectoral muscles. So you want to stretch out our pecs after doing that all day. So what Sarah's going to do is she's going to lay on the ground. She's going to extend one arm, which with the right arm. She's going to rotate to the right side of her body. So this is going to help open up the chest. Also with the leg kick back, she's also getting another hip flexor stretch. So both of these stretches, all three of these stretches are really good to help counteract the of sitting all day. Now we have you sit up, please. And we're going to look at the shoulders again. If you actually just turn to the side. And she's going to clasp her hands behind her back. And she's going to extend out. She's getting both shoulders and both pectoral muscles at the same time right now. It's a great way to open up that chest. All right, we turn face the camera, please. And now we're going to look at the neck. So again, as we're sitting on our computer desk or looking at the phones, we tend to be leaning forward a lot all day. And she's made an awesome adjustment right there. So the way she was sitting is a quite more comfortable way to sit. But when she tucked her feet under herself like that, she's actually stretching her feet. And she's also stretching her hips and her quads. So she's getting multiple stretches at once. But what she's going to do now is, when we just do the shoulders over your back. So she's going to grab one hand. So with her left hand, she's pulling her right shoulder down. She's going to lean her left ear towards her shoulder. It's going to stretch the traps into the neck. Then you switch to the other side. Beautiful. It's a good way to help with our neck. And one more stretch. I'm going to have her turn the opposite direction one more time. This is a good hamstring stretch and neck stretch at the same time. So she's going to go forward fold. You see this one very common. You see people doing this and they're stretching their hamstrings. But what she's doing a good job here is actually letting her chin tuck. Really, you want to do this, you want to let your neck stretch all the way to the top of your skull. This is going to be a good way to make sure you get a full back body stretch. Again, just think about what you do all day. You can relax, thank you, Sarah. But think about what you do all day. Just sitting all day, you want to do the opposite. You want to make sure that you're lengthening muscles, that you shorten. That way we have a good full range of motion. Perfect example is a newborn kid. They have full range of motion. All their joints are fluid. They can move very well. As we age, we want to make sure we keep that as long as possible. Help us have a long, happy lifestyle. And remember, this is just one piece. The diet, the nutrition, mindset, working out, mobility, it all ties together to make sure we all live a long, happy lifestyle. So again, thank you very much, and keep up the good work. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, so we have time to take a peek at some questions. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything in the Q&A. So Kendra, if you don't mind, we'll just jump back to you very quickly. Kendra mentioned eggs. It says about how many whole eggs per week is okay. What about egg yolks? And I know, Kendra, some of those recommendations can be very person specific. So I understand if the response needs to be broad.
Absolutely. I was actually just typing all this out, but this is even better. So that's a really great question because it's a cause for a lot of people being confused about nutrition information that's come out over the past 10 or 15 years. So first, I just want to explain why this question is confusing for some people, because it's confusing for a lot of people. And that's that for a long time, we were really concerned about cholesterol because cholesterol seemed to be tied to heart disease. And obviously we don't want heart disease. And egg yolks have a high amount of cholesterol in them. And so for a long time, we were saying lower the amount of cholesterol in your diet. However, what we've recently learned over the past few years with lots of research is that it seems that eating cholesterol, such as eating egg yolks, doesn't necessarily reflect in the cholesterol within your body. So eating egg yolks for most people doesn't actually raise their cholesterol in the sense that it would affect their heart. And so to that end, in fact, our dietary guidelines recently removed the cholesterol recommendation altogether. We're not nearly so concerned about your dietary cholesterol as we once were. So as far as how many you can have per day, as Sarah had acknowledged, all dietary recommendations should hopefully be made in as much of a we all love our personalized nutrition here at the NRI. We would like to always be able to make sure that we're giving the best information for each individual person. And so I want to acknowledge that no matter what I say, definitely if you have different information from your personal doctor or your personal dietitian, they know you better than I know you. So always listen to people who know you better. But as a general statement to the general public, as long as eggs are being enjoyed in a varied and otherwise helpful diet and in moderation, so 1 or 2 a day is honestly not too bad. It's not something to be concerned about. As long as you're doing so in an otherwise, we don't want to have, 80% of my diet is eggs. That's a little bit much. However, you can definitely have an egg every day, 2 eggs every day if you wish, as long as they otherwise fit into a varied and a varied diet, and you're having those eggs in moderation and not going egg crazy.
Awesome. Thank you, Kendra. And then Chris, I have a question for you about these stretches. About how many reps would you recommend? So how should we go through the stretching routine if we're doing it on a daily basis?
So a good baseline, if you're doing the ones where you're flowing back and forth, I like to do 20 reps per side. That's a pre-workout. That's going to help loose you up and get you ready for the workout. Now, if you're doing this stretch, doing like a stagnant hold of a stretch after a workout, I'm going to suggest 90 seconds at least. It shows that it takes the nervous system at least a minute to turn off to actually let you fully relax. So even if you feel like you're stretching, if you're sitting there for a minute, subconsciously your brain may still be firing those muscles for the entire minute until they actually turn off and let you actually relax and get into a deep stretch.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to part 2 of this specific resolution. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone once more. And just the second piece of this resolution is to take care of your mind. So we just wanted to briefly share some resources from UNC Campus Health. Again, this will be available. We'll send these slides out following this presentation so that you can access the direct link at the bottom. But it is so important to find mindfulness in this busy world. We find that meditation and practicing mindfulness on a regular basis really can help you to slow down, to appreciate more, to help you become more in tune with your feelings so that you can be a little bit more positive and energized as you move through your daily life. So UNC Campus Health Resources has some videos available that will talk to you about starting a meditation routine, about practicing mindfulness in your everyday life, and they even offer some courses online about mindfulness and meditation. So highly recommend that you check out those resources. They are very useful and go hand in hand with eating well, with treating your body with respect. The mindfulness piece pulls it all together. All right. So next up, we have a resolution for you to try something new. And at the NRI, we have labs that are actively performing human subjects research on a regular basis, and we invited them out today to share their work with you. We know that we talk about their research quite a bit on our website and on our social media, but sometimes their research can sound like a mystery, and we wanted them to be able to come out and tell you exactly what it is that they're researching and more of what you can expect if you are a research participant. So first up today is going to be John Shea from the Human Research Corps. He will tell you a little bit about the work that they are doing in the Human Research Corps, along with some specific studies that he is involved in recruiting for. So John, I'm going to turn things over to you, and I know you have some slides to share as well.
Yes. Hi, thank you. So I'm one of the research study coordinators at the Human Research Corps, or the HRC as we call it. We do human studies for any labs that are interested in doing a human study. We can do a lot of the services that they need to do and provide a lot of support for them in doing their studies as well. So we do, a number of different things, including study design, study recruitment, screening, consenting, in our consultation area. We also have clinical services, which include phlebotomy and specimen collection. And we also have a number of larger pieces of equipment that most labs would not have available that we can offer services for as well, such as the FibroScan, where we can detect liver composition. We have an ultrasound machine. We have a body composition lab where we have a DEXA, a BOD pod, and a P-pod. We have the Biodex. We have a whole room calorimeter to help determine energy balance change. And we also have a metabolic kitchen if you have to prepare meals or something like that. We have a number of current studies that we're involved with, both at UNC and externally with other universities and institutions. I'm just going to go over the current ones that are actually active at this point. We have the fatty acid study, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. There's the choline study that Julie will go discuss after me. And there's the children's health study and the fructose liver fat study. We also have a study from Plants for Human Health next door with NC State, the blueberry absorption metabolism study that we're helping with, and the turmeric study with ASU. If you are interested in seeing any of these current studies run by UNC, you can also check us out at uncnri.org/participate, where we keep a listing of the current studies that we are running. So right now we are doing the fatty acid study, where the HRC is doing all of the study coordination for it. We're recruiting, consenting, and doing the sample collection as well for that study. So we'll go over that a little bit. The purpose of this particular study is to determine if a dietary supplement can reduce inflammation and improve metabolism. So we're actually looking at palmitoleic acid, which is a omega-7 monounsaturated fatty acid. And which is found in Southeast Asia. So the criteria for this study is we are looking for healthy participants between ages of 30 and 80 with a BMI between 25 and 40, and their CRP levels need to be between 2 and 10. Some of the other criteria are you cannot be on fish oil supplements or sea buckthorn supplements, and you also can't have an allergy to fish. So for the study, if a participant reaches out to us, we can then schedule a phone screening where we determine your general eligibility and just kind of discuss the study with participants. Provided that everything is okay and you meet the eligibility requirements, we can then schedule a screening visit. And at the screening visit, we basically will set up a time to review the consent forms with you, discuss any concerns you have with the study and any questions you might have, explain any details about it, and then we would do a small blood draw. That blood draw is to determine your CRP levels to see if you are eligible to continue in the actual study. It's actually not that easy to recruit for this study because only about 20% of the people that we actually screen have CRP levels that we can use. Provided you do have your CRP levels, we can have you come back for visit 1, where we do a more comprehensive blood panel. We look at, your cholesterol and a number of other different things. We also provide the supplements and instructions for the supplements, and you would be then taking the supplements for the next 12 weeks. Also during that 12 weeks, we would schedule several 24-hour diet history recalls to just see if your metabolism has been changing over that time period. At the end of 12 weeks, we'd have you come back for a comprehensive blood panel again to finish out the study. So that is the fatty acid study in a nutshell. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other personnel on this. We'd be glad to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
One question come in, John, just asking, what are CRP levels?
So that's a C-reactive protein, which is used as a inflammatory biomarker. So we can use that to see how your what inflammation might be in your body and how it's changing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying. And again, if anyone has any questions about this study, we will be providing you with this information from John and also the contact information for the study. With that, we are going to move on to one of the other studies that he mentioned, the choline status study. And we have Julie Stigall here from the Suzanne lab ready to share with you the work that they're doing.
Hello. So I am trying to share my screen and it's not letting me.
Let me see if I can troubleshoot that for you, Julie. Give me just one.
All right. So I'll go ahead and start talking a little bit while she's troubleshooting that. My name's Julie Stigall. I have worked at the NRI for about 11 years or so now. I started in 2009 with Dr. Carol Cheatham, and I've worked on numerous human studies since then. So, okay, it looks like I can share it now. So I'll go ahead and get started talking here. Can you see that?
I can see it perfectly, Julie.
Great. Okay, so right now I work with Dr. Stephen Suzanne. That is who Kendra referenced as the expert on choline. Dr. Suzanne has spent a lot of time in his very renowned career studying choline, and you know how you can go to the doctor and they can check your blood to see if you have adequate vitamin D, they can check it for iron, they can check it for B12. Well, they can't check it for choline, and choline is a very important nutrient. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn how eventually a test could be developed to see if you're getting the choline that you need. So, as I said, choline is an essential nutrient. Kendra referenced that it's found in eggs. That is really one of the primary sources that people might get choline from. Most Americans' diets do not achieve the recommended daily intake of choline. Diets low in choline, like she referenced before, do have a negative impact, and diets high in choline can also have potentially a negative impact. So we want to be able to know if you as an individual are getting the choline that you as an individual need. So as you see, Dr. Isis Trujillo is one of our study members right there. She helps us a lot work on this choline study, and she is one of the ones that's helping us learn how exactly to develop that reliable test. So what we do with our human subjects is we control the choline that you are getting in your diet. So it's a very involved study. We have to know exactly what you're taking in so we can measure what's going on as it's being used in your body. We control everything that you would eat or drink for 2 weeks at a time. So basically the way that works is you are on our study diet for 2 weeks, and then you go off and go back to your regular diet for at least 2 weeks. It can be longer, but a minimum of 2 weeks. Then you go back on our diet for 2 weeks. And then again, you go off for another 2 weeks at least. And then you go back on our diet. So during those 3 different periods that you're on our diet, you're receiving 25%, 50%, and 100% of the recommended daily intake of choline. It's double blinded, so that means we don't know and you don't know which of those 2-week periods you're on which of those levels of diet. That way, we are not influenced in any way as to how we're interpreting your measures. It's all blinded, it's all coded. So at the end, we can look and see what was going on with your body. So what we're looking at throughout this time in the study on those 3 different arms is we're looking at your blood, your urine, we're looking at your liver with a tool called the FibroScan. The FibroScan is something that's very similar to an ultrasound. It can measure the fat content of your liver. It's just a probe that's held on the outside of your abdomen and takes these measures through your skin. We also do a quick heart rate measure. It just requires 2 fingers from each hand that you place on a sensor pad. It takes about a minute. We also do a test called the Biodex. It measures muscle function because we do know that choline can have an impact on that. And it's very similar to just a simple bicep curl. We do 4 stool samples during the course of the study. And that's kind of funny that I said we do 4 stool samples. And then we also measure body composition many times throughout the study. So we're looking at a lot of different indicators. Who can participate in this study? We can have people that are between the ages of 17 and 70. So if you fall in there, you've checked off the first box on qualifying to participate. The next box is a little more difficult to fit into. So we have to have people that weigh between 132 and 177 pounds. And a lot of people say, well, why is it such a narrow range? Well, we are, again, controlling everything that you are consuming. We don't want people to be hungry while they're on the study. We don't want people to feel like they're stuffing themselves full on the study. So we have to make sure that really we're working with a very narrow range because we want to make sure we're comparing people eating almost identically the same amount of foods and without gaining or losing any kind of significant weight. You have to, of course, be willing to eat only the foods and beverages that are provided for 2 weeks at a time. You cannot have any kind of chronic systemic diseases. You cannot be pregnant, breastfeeding, or planning to become pregnant. No liver abnormalities, no cysts, even if they're benign. We don't know how that would affect the measures that we're taking of your liver fat. We don't want anyone who is exercising more than about an hour in a day. Now, if you walk, that's totally different. What we're talking about is intense exercise, something that would make you sore. So if you're somebody who runs, you can still run 30 minutes, 45 minutes a day and generally not have a problem being a part of the study. We want people who are not going to be breaking down muscle, building new muscle while they're on these arms of the study. And then there are some additional exclusion criteria that get more detailed and specific once you get involved with the study that we would talk about if we did a screening phone call or talked with you by email. So this is not all, but it's really the majority of the things that would rule people out of participation in the study. How much time does it take? So the study does take some time, but really a lot of times we can fit this in. We've had people participate in the study who had 2 young children and a mother that they had to take to a daycare facility and work full time. So, you know, it's doable. We do a lot of early morning visits to be able to make sure that people can get their visits done before they go into work. 12 of the visits during the course of the study do involve fasting blood draws, so we would want that to be a morning appointment. One of the visits in each of the arm may include a longer visit. Most people get it done in about an hour, but one of the visits for each arm of the study, we do ask you to provide a stool sample on site. So that sort of depends on how your body works and whether or not that's something that can be done in a short frame of time, or if you need a little bit more time for your body to process. Some visits take less than 15 minutes. You're just coming in for a blood draw, or you're just coming in and doing a couple of simple little measures, and then you're out of there. So while it is a good number of visits, some of them can get done really quickly. And of course, like I said, we need to have the ability to schedule early morning appointments so that we can meet our participants' demands. So we do that. We do have that ability to schedule those early morning appointments. What kind of foods do we provide? So because we have to make sure we know exactly what you're getting, we do have pre-packaged food. So it is a lot of frozen dinners, but some of them are very good frozen dinners. A lot of you may be familiar with the Amy's meals. So we have a couple of those. We have a Amy's pesto tortellini, in addition to the ones that listed there, the Amy's enchilada verde. We have lean cuisine pizza, banquet chicken pot pie, things that you're used to seeing in the frozen food section of your grocery store. Jimmy Dean Delight's breakfast sandwiches are our breakfast. And we have a couple of things that are optional. We have pears and Jell-O that are snacks that you can have because they are very low in choline, since we are, again, trying to control exactly the choline that you're getting. You would eat 3 rolls a day. So there are a good number of starches in this, but we do make sure that you get all of the nutritional value that is required. So there are some additional supplements that you would take if you end up being a part of the study. We have a lot of variety in our beverages. So we have the ability to provide you with 3 different kinds of sodas, a sweet tea, a lemonade, a cran apple juice, a chamomile tea. But for me, the hardest part, if I were a participant in this study, would be that coffee. You can only have 1 serving of Folgers instant coffee per day. Coffee does have choline, and it can vary significantly based on the type of coffee, the way you brew it. So that's why I have to be so strict and only have this one particular type of coffee, so we know exactly the choline that you're getting. So those are just some examples of the foods that you would be getting. The compensation. So if you come in, if we talk on the phone and you do a screening phone call and you are eligible based on the screening phone call, we would invite you to come in for a screening visit. For the screening visit, you would receive a $50 gift card. That's paid to you regardless of you being eligible or not eligible for the study, regardless of your decision to continue to participate in this study or our decision to allow you to participate. So you just get that for coming that day and doing what we ask you to do. The visit takes about 2 hours tops. For the people who end up being a part of the actual study, they receive $2,000 at the end of the study. That is, again, paid upon completion. Biological samples are tested throughout the study to make sure that you are being compliant with the diet. So if you're found to be not compliant as we go through the study, you would be dropped and the payment for that would be prorated. So if you think you'd be interested in being a part of this study, we would love to have you. You're welcome to email me directly, call me directly. My phone number is there, and I believe Sarah's going to have all of this contact information available to you, as well as some of the other information on the studies, so that you can hopefully contact us and ask some more questions about the work we're doing. It's kind of hard to give a real quick overview. It's really great when I can sit and talk with somebody individually and answer their specific questions of how it relates to them and their schedule. So please do feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. And I will give a quick shout out here that I have completed the choline status study with Julie in the past, and it really is a smooth sailing experience. I actually really enjoyed doing the study. So I do recommend that if you're interested and you think it sounds like something you could qualify, contact Julie, talk about it. It is a very fun experience. I know that sounds weird talking about a study where you're taking blood samples and stuff, but it was nice to know that I was contributing to something much larger than myself. And hopefully, as you guys come to the end of this study, you'll be able to be one step closer to designing that test. That would be such a great success. So
That's right.
and we will make sure that that information is distributed. We have one more lab who is on deck to speak with all of you this afternoon. So I'm going to be turning things over to Bree Nance from the Voraganti lab. And they actually have a couple of studies going on. So Bree is going to introduce you to those studies and let you know a little bit more about the work that they are doing.
Hey, Sarah, thanks so much. So I am working in Dr. Voraganti's lab as a research study coordinator and a lab technician, kind of dual hand-in-hand stuff. But in our lab specifically, we focus on genetic and lifestyle factors affecting obesity and other related diseases. So our two studies that I want to talk about are going to be focused on that goal. So how do we do that? In our lab, we look at DNA and biomarker analysis, as well as questionnaire forms filled out by our participants. With the DNA analysis, we'll look at the genes that your parents gave you and see how it can affect your risk for certain diseases. And we compare the results of biomarker analysis, which is like tests that your doctors will do with your urine and blood, and stool, like Julie mentioned, to hopefully create precision nutrition guidelines. We also use a questionnaire, like I said, to help with our analysis. The first study I want to go over is our children's health study. The purpose in this, again, is to keep our goal in mind, is to identify genes and lifestyle factors that affect children's health status and overall well-being. In this study, we recruit children and their parents. The children are ages 5 to 19 with no regards to disease. So any healthy child, any child that has maybe diabetes or something can join. We don't care, we want them all. So during the visit, it's a one-time visit for now. We're hoping to do a longitudinal study as well. That's still in the works. During the visit, though, the families will provide answers to a questionnaire, which includes medical and health history, dietary habits, and physical activity patterns. We will also collect saliva, blood, and urine samples, which I know is a little bit scary, but we have a great team to work with these children and their families. So that has never been an issue. And we will do height, weight, waist, and blood pressure measurements. We do ask that visits are in the morning, so we work with school and work schedules. So especially right now with kids maybe going twice a week or maybe online only, we are very flexible with however, and parents' schedules as well, however they need to be scheduled. But visits do take 1 to 2 hours, mostly because bigger families, of course, we have to go through each and every person, and the questionnaire does take a little bit of time. Parents receive $25 and each child receives $50. Why do we want to focus on children's health? Because as of 2019, the CDC says in the US, 18% of children and teens were obese. So children who are obese have higher risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. They have more breathing problems, joint and muscle discomfort. They have higher risk of fatty liver disease and psychological and self-esteem problems. The second study I want to go over is our fructose liver fat study. So fructose, you might have heard of, it's a sugar found in fruits and vegetables and is utilized to make high fructose corn syrup. I know everybody's heard of that because it's in your sodas and other foods. In this study, we want to see what genetic and dietary factors affect the risk for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. In this study, we are recruiting a more narrow range. So we're looking at Caucasian young adults, ages 12 to 40 with no history of alcohol abuse, no history of liver disease, and no history of fructose intolerance. So we have 3 phases in this one. The first phase is going to be what we call the screening phase, where we will collect a saliva sample and a short survey. We will take your height, weight, and check blood glucose levels. This can be done any time of day. It takes like 15 minutes to do. And based on this information, we will call you back to do phases 2 and 3. So you're compensated $25 regardless for this phase. Phases 2 and 3 for the fructose liver fat study are they're almost the exact same. And they're morning appointments because we need fasting blood draws. So again, we're flexible with scheduling. We be as flexible as possible, especially with other studies going on in the HRC, as John mentioned. These visits are 3 weeks apart, and during that 3 weeks, you will be taking home the same fructose drink that is mentioned here in the slide. We'll show you how to make it. The only dietary restrictions we ask is to keep in mind that there is the amount of sugar of 2 sodas. So no extra sweets, no extra sodas during the 3 weeks that you're taking in this drink. But for the 2 visits for phase 2 and 3, you come in, we take your height, weight, waist circumference. We collect what we call baseline blood and urine samples. We will measure blood pressure and arterial stiffness, which I'll go over arterial stiffness in just a second. We'll prepare this fructose drink, and at 1 hour and 3 hours after drinking the drink, we repeat blood and urine samples, and we'll repeat blood pressure and arterial stiffness measures. At the end of these 2 phases, participants receive $300 for their time. So arterial stiffness, you might wonder what it is. It's a little bit different than blood pressure, but we still use a blood pressure machine by, we call it Stigall. And it is non-invasive. So we take this little pin, which you can probably see in the picture, and we put it on the carotid artery, and we put up what we call a thigh cuff on your thigh. And we do some measures with the tape measure, and we just measure, we poke all that in. As you can see in the picture, there's 200 millimeters is just a kind of a guess for now. And we go through, we put the carotid artery tonometer is what we call it. And we go through, we do that. It does all the measurements for us, and it determines your arterial stiffness. If you have any questions or concerns, or maybe want to know more about a study, feel free to contact us. We have a website, we have a Facebook, my email's here, and my phone number is here. And I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bree. I don't actually see any other questions in the Q&A or in the chat, but I do want to just give everyone a couple of seconds, if they have those, to please go ahead and ask those questions. I transition on to just one final slide that I'm going to share with everyone. So just a beautiful reminder of our campus that many of us are not currently working on right at this moment. But to close things out today, I would like to just briefly pass things off to Suzanne Dean, who is our Director of Development and Community Outreach. And she will just share a couple of parting words with you as we close out this wellness workshop.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for coming out to see our program today. I want to thank Kendra and John and Chris and Julie and Bree for participating and coming away from their busy days. So thanks, y'all, for being here for this today. We're always pleased to put together programming for you, our viewing public, and we hope that you find it beneficial and interesting, and it helps you understand some of the work that we do at the Nutrition Research Institute. And if you are, if you think that we're providing you a good service, we'd like to ask you to consider supporting us by visiting uncnri.org. And that is all I have to say, and I hope we'll see you next month at our next program.
Yes, we will be sending out an email following this presentation that will have all of the handouts that we mentioned, all of the contact information that you need, and it will of course include the information on our next Appetite for Life presentation in February. So just like Suzanne said, we hope to see you there, and we hope that you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.